A square is formed when you take a right isosceles and rotate it about the midpoint of the hypotenuse. And of course, as you've seen before, you see our new quadrilateral formed, and this time it's a square. Now, a square is by definition a rhombus and a rectangle put together. It's a rectangle because you can see the 4 right angles. It's a rhombus because it has four equal sides. And of course, it's a parallelogram because rhombuses and rhombi and rectangles are types of parallelograms. So the square is everything put together. It will have all of the properties. Opposite sides are equal. Opposite angles are equals. Diagonals are perpendicular. Diagonals bisect each other. Diagonals will be angle bisectors, making each of these 45 degrees in all of the cases. This shape is known as the regular quadrilateral. And why is it the regular one? Because it has congruent angles, four congruent angles, and 4 congruent sides. And so you get a sense of all of its properties right there. So let's rotate this right isosceles again. It has to be a right isosceles for this to work. In doing so, we find ourselves getting 4 equal sides. And not only do we get the 4 equal sides of the rhombus, that we get the 4 equal angles. And these two 45s make 90, and so do the other two. The diagonal gives us an angle bisector, and so it splits all angles into 45s. And then the diagonals are 90. All of these things form the regular shape. These triangles in the interior are all right isosceles triangles. The square is a fun one to look at, and you'll see why in a minute. But here's our square. Because it's a type of parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides are equal, adjacent sides are perpendicular to each other, and all 4 sides are equal in that. Everything. Opposite angles are equal, yes. Consecutives add to 180, yes. 4 equal angles, yes. How cool is this? Let's take a look at the diagonals. Here's a diagonal, there's a diagonal. Do they bisect each other? Yes, all of those will be equal in size. Are they congruent? Yes. Are they perpendicular? Yes. And finally, are they angle bisectors? Yes, all of them bisect their angles. Notice, I know you already did, notice what you should notice, yes to all things. Again, this helps us to know or establishes this idea that this is the regular polygon. It has all of the properties built into one shape. I'll only need to do one of these examples because you'll see so much information is already known based off of just the fact that they gave us one side. Now you know that these are all 90 in here, so we know that that's true. We know that these are angle bisectors, so these would all be 45 angles that are in here. We would also know that the interior intersection there is got to be at 90 because those intersect at perpendicular. We know that these guys all have to be the same as well. To see how much we know, all based on just this, that this is a square with a side of 8. Now the only thing we do not know yet is the diagonal. So let's use what we know about a right isosceles. This is a 45-45, and hopefully you remember a few things. We have sides of 8, and so the hypotenuse is 8 root 2. That's a 45-45 relationship, and that makes each of the pieces 4 root 2. So when that gets cut up, these would be 4 root 2 each. And how did I pull that off? What was the little trick there? Again, this big triangle here is a right isosceles as well. Every triangle in the square is a right isosceles triangle. And so then I had 2 sides of 8, made the hypotenuse 8 root 2, and I could cut that in half. Let's try this out as a summary. A parallelogram had parallel sides and opposite sides were equal. It was also true that opposite angles were equal and that the consecutive angles were 180, and that the diagonals bisect each other. Now here's kind of a cool idea. Because all of the other guys are also parallelograms, they actually all have that same grouping as well. So you'd see that property happen in everybody of that group because they are all a type of parallelogram. Now the rectangle adds the 90 degrees, which makes the sides perpendicular and makes 4 equal angles. And we found out that the diagonals were equal to each other. Now remember, a square is a type of rectangle, so the square would also get those properties. Next, we go to the rhombus. The rhombus adds 4 equal sides, and it adds that the diagonals are perpendicular and angle bisectors. Because of that, we also know the square would have those, and we notice a few very important things. We notice that the parallelogram properties carry throughout, and we also notice that the square has all of the properties of everybody else. So a square is a parallelogram, it is a rectangle, and of course it is a rhombus all in one.